Alright guys, so here's the review of the San Martin SN007-G-X, better known as the 62MAS Homage. So this is actually the version 4 of this particular watch. I've not checked out versions 3 or 2, but I have actually got version 1. So we're doing a bit of a comparison between the two, see what's changed since then. So full disclosure, I was sent the watch for free. Don't have to send it back, but you know the score. So I'm going to change the way I do my reviews, going to keep it 100% honest all the time, no matter what. So question is it worth getting over the previous versions? What's actually changed? Before we jump in though, I've actually got a discount code for this. So if you use the discount code HWR, you've got $20 off and a $200 spend, and that applies to anything on the store. So nice little bonus there. So enough waffling, let's jump in, find out if it's any good. So here it is. And it is a really good looking watch, as you kind of expect with San Martin. So we've got that gunmetal kind of finished on the dial. Oh, let's get a zoom in, see in a bit more detail. You can see we've got a sunburst on that. And we've got high polish on the hands and around those indices as well. All really nicely done. I'll probably chuck in some macro so you can see it a bit better. And then we've got that same high polish frame around the date window as well at the 3 o'clock. Then we've got that applied San Martin hexagonal logo at the top. And at the bottom, automatic 200 meter, 660 feet. So it's not overly cluttered with text, which I do appreciate. And we've got plenty of lume in those indices and a bit on those hands as well. So we'll be checking out the lume in a bit. When it comes to the bezel, we've got a ceramic bezel, and it's 120 click. Really nice action. Absolutely rock solid. No play at all. If I had one slight issue with it, it's a touch sharp maybe, if I'm being really nitpicky, but again, that's just being really nitpicky. It's not like it's going to cut you or anything. I could rub my finger on it pretty hard. Doesn't really leave a mark. So, not too big an issue. So, quickly zoom back out, we'll talk about the bracelet and the rest of the case. So, got polished sides to the case. As you can see, a bit of a fingerprint magnet. But we've also got drilled lugs there as well, which are handy if you do want to change that bracelet. And we've got the side crown with the hexagonal logo again. So consistent branding for San Martin. Started working on that, not a bit of a mishmash like they used to have with some other watches. Again, another slight issue is this bracelet, the male end links. Female end links are always better for me personally, but I know some people might not mind. But I always think watches are better with female end links. They just tend to wear more as you'd expect. Because otherwise that effective lug to lug is larger. We'll talk about the dimensions in a minute. So we've got a boxstone crystal on that, checking a bit whether it's sapphire. When it comes to the rest of the bracelet, it's really nicely done again, as you kind of expect with San Martin. Really sharply done. No issues with finishing at all. Polished details on those centre links in between. And nicely rounded off. Again, if I'm being really nitpicky, the edges are a touch sharp maybe, but again, you're not going to cut yourself or anything. Doesn't leave a mark, so not too big a deal. When it comes to the clasp, again we've got consistent branding with the hexagonal logo. Nice polished chamfered detail on the edge of that. Would have been nice if they carried that on the bracelet maybe, just along that edge. And again, it'd get rid of that slightly sharp edge maybe. Plenty of micro adjust, double pushers, milled clasp. Now when it comes to the case back, we've got the San Martin Shark. I do like the fact that they've got that on the back still, and I'd rather have that than the hexagonal one on the back, I think. So then we've got specs on here, we've got the fact that it's San Martin, the model number, 200 meter water resistance, sapphire crystal, and stainless steel. So, seeing as it's mentioned that, let's check it out using the trusty Derma Slots 2. And yep, we have got sapphire crystal, as you'd expect at this kind of price. So that doesn't disappoint. So now, let's get on to the dimensions for this. So, as I said in the intro, I'm going to bring in the V1 and I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison. So here we go. So we've got the V1 here and then the V4 here. So when it comes to the dimensions, start with the diameter. So the diameter on the V1 is 40mm, whereas the V4 is actually 37. But if you include the bezel in that, it's actually 38, because the bezel is slightly larger than the case, sticks out slightly past it. For the thickness, again, there's a slight difference. So the V1 is 14mm thick, the V4 is 13mm thick. They both have 20mm lug width, but then the biggest difference is the lug to lug. So they both have male end links, so I'll tell you the lug to lug and then the effective lug to lug, so end link to end link. So for the V1, we've got a lug to lug of 48.1, but an effective lug to lug or end link to end link measurement of 53.5. So that was one of the issues with this particular watch. It did wear a little larger than ideal for people with like 7-inch kind of average wrists, although those lugs do curve down slightly, so it's not quite as bad as you'd think, but I'll show you them both on wrist at the end of this. So with the V4, the lug to lug is 46.6, so slightly smaller than the other one, but not by a great deal. But where it makes the real difference is the end link to end link. So the end link to end link measurement on that one is 49.9. So it's under that important, what I consider 50mm for my 7-inch wrist to make it fit ideally. So I'll quickly show you now what the loom's like on these so you can see the comparison again. Because with this V1, I've actually got a loomed bezel on that one because that was an option, whereas the V4 only has the standard bezel with the loom pip. It doesn't have an option to be able to have different ones. So as you can see, got the loom bezel on that as I said, but let's charge them both up and see if there's a difference between the two. And there we go. So, impressive loom on both, as you can see, the only difference being that bezel. As you come to expect pretty much with any San Martin watch, the loom's just really good. Doesn't matter if it's one of their older models or their newer models, they've always had good loom, or at least in my experience they have. As I say, that V1 I've had for quite a while now. It's getting a little bit old compared to some of the other ones coming out, but it's still got really good loom. So if you're after a really good loom watch as well as a really well made watch, you can't really go wrong with San Martin, I don't think. I've said it a lot and I stick by it. So there's a couple of other subtle little differences you can probably see as well. So with the V1, we've actually got the printed San Martin text at the top there, and there's a bit more text at the bottom as well, compared to the V4, which has the applied hexagonal logo and a little less text at the bottom. A couple of other subtle differences when it comes to the crown. So on the V1 we actually had the shark, whereas as I said with the newer one you've got that hexagonal logo, so keeping the branding a bit more consistent. Another difference is the clasps. So with the V1, again, slightly different kind of style clasp, whereas all the San Martins now tend to have this newer one. So you've not got the applied hexagonal logo again, you've got the stamped San Martin, but you have got a fold over on that one. And then the double pushers, you've also got a bit more micro adjust, whereas the newer version has a little bit less, but still more than enough. The only other slight one being the crystal. So on the V1, it was more of a domed kind of crystal, so you got a bit more distortion around the edges, whereas the V4, as I said, is more of a top hat kind of style, so a little less distortion. Again, that's just personal preference, which one you prefer. Let me know down in the comments. So when it comes to movement options on this new one, you can get the PT5000 or the SW200. So Obviously one of them is a Chinese movement, the PT5000, so it's a clone of the ETA 2824, whereas the SW200 is another clone of the ETA, but it's a Swiss-made clone. So personally, I've had no issues with PT5000s. I've reviewed quite a few now, got quite a few in my collection, some of which I've had for a couple of years, no issues. So I'd be going for the PT5000 personally. I've not noticed any difference between that and the SW200, which I do have in, I think it's one, maybe two other watches. I can't really tell the difference. So quickly show you that in action. So screw down crown, pop it out once, change the date, pop it out again, second hand stop, so you got hacking, and then obviously just change the time. Pop it back in, second hand re-engages. Screw it down, or actually no, hand winding as well, sorry, show you that. So working well, no grittiness, nice and smooth, and then screw it back down, all working well. So all it's left to do now is show you what these two are like on wrist, so you can see the comparison. So here's the V1 on my 7-inch wrist, and as I said, those lugs do curve down, so it's not quite as bad as that effective lug to lug measurement would suggest, but it is probably bordering on being too big for my wrist. It's right on the limit, I'd say. So I'll quickly show you now what the newer version looks like. And here's what the new version 4 looks like. So definitely fits on my wrist a bit more comfortably. It's not bordering on being too large, I don't think. Yeah, it still wears large for a 37mm watch because of those male end links. And it's also a fairly large case as well. So you might not like the look of this one. Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the look of this one or the version 1? Would you be interested in getting one of these? Obviously you can't get the version 1 anymore, at least as far as I know. But if you're interested in picking one of these up, links are down in the description as always. And if you do pick one up, don't forget to use that discount code HWR to get $20 off. It's just a quality piece, as again you'd expect from San Martin now. They've got a reputation of it. I like the little details of the polished bits in the centre of these links which catch the light nicely. I do like that they've sorted out the branding now as well. It's consistent across the whole watch, not a mishmash. So you've got consistency across the dial, the crown and the clasp as well. But I do like that they've kept that shark on the back. I know some people don't like the hexagonal logo. I was kind of in that camp initially, till I actually got to try one out, and it does grow on you. I think it does suit it quite well. It's quite classy looking, I think. And again, if you're not keen on this bracelet and you want to swap it out for someone else, you've got drilled lugs, so it's easy to swap out. So I think either way, it's a really good watch. No issues at all really, apart from possibly that male end link, as I say. If it was a female one, I think it'd be even better. But other than that, I can't really fault it. But that's it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.